Imagine realizing that the GPS in your car wasn't just, giving you directions. It had actually secretly reprogrammed itself to tell you where you should want to go in the first place.
Right, and it did it so seamlessly that you just totally believed it was your own idea all along.
Exactly. You type in an address, the little blue line pops up, and you just follow the steps. I mean, it's clean, it's certain, and honestly, it's deeply comforting because we all like to know exactly where we were going.
We really do. But the problem is, what happens when you finally question the map?
Yeah, what happens when you hit a sudden cultural shift or a massive technological leap, or even just a personal breaking point where that map simply stops working?
Right. The streets are still there, but the destination is just completely scrambled.
And demanding better directions won't help you at all, which is wild to think about.
It won't, because the problem isn't really the directions. The problem is the foundation those directions are actually built on. When your environment becomes that unpredictable, demanding answers is a trap. You have to start questioning the underlying assumptions that built the map in the first place.
And that is precisely the intersection of cosmic timing, technological algorithms, and, well, the profound power of human curiosity that we are exploring in today's deep dive.
We've got some really fascinating material to get through today.
We do. We have a highly specific stack of sources in front of us. First, an astrological forecast for June 14th, 2026, which is centering on the new moon in Gemini.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And alongside that, we have a piece of short speculative fiction. It's called a StoryScope, titled The Revision Protocol. Both of these were created by Tarot by HEC.
And you can find more of that really great work at tarot.hic.net.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to figure out how breaking our own internal feedback loops and shifting from demanding answers to asking better questions might actually be the ultimate hack for navigating a totally overstimulated world.
I love that framing.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's start with the astrological architecture of June 14th. Because this new moon sits in Gemini, we already know we're looking at a mental reset rather than, a physical one.
Right, because Gemini is an air sign.
Exactly. It's ruled by Mercury, so it governs communication, intellect, and the rapid exchange of information. But what makes this specific June 14th alignment unique is the sheer velocity of the reset.
Velocity meaning like things are just moving impossibly fast.
Yeah, we're heading into an environment of extreme information overload. Rapid news cycles, viral controversies, logistical snarls, sudden revelations just spreading indiscriminately.
So the trap here is making a grand declaration. You don't want to wake up and shout, "This is who I am and this is what I believe forever."
Oh, definitely not. That's the worst thing you could do right now.
Right. Because when people are placed in a highly overstimulated environment, our natural psychological response is restlessness. We desperately seek clarity.
We want an anchor.
We want an anchor, yeah. But the astrology points out that the anchor right now isn't a solid answer. The anchor is curiosity itself.
Exactly. It's an invitation to rewrite internal narratives. It requires a willingness to gather new information before jumping to the same old conclusion.
It's sort of like, and bear with me here, it's essentially clearing the cache and cookies on a sluggish web browser.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Because when a browser gets bogged down because it's holding on to the tracking data of every site you've ever visited, you suddenly find yourself being followed by targeted ads for, like, a pair of shoes you looked at 3 years ago.
You're literally being tracked by your own old assumptions.
Yes. Clearing the cache is a mental reset. Suddenly, you aren't being weighed down by your own history. But I want to push back on this environment for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
If everyone is just dropping their assumptions, rapidly shifting perspectives, and facing this massive flood of sudden news and viral discourse, I mean, isn't that just a recipe for total chaos?
It sounds like it would be.
Right. Is there an actual structure to this restlessness, or are we all just kind of floating in the digital wind?
What's fascinating here is that the mechanics of this specific planetary alignment become really important. It isn't just raw, unfiltered chaos because of two key geometric relationships happening during this new moon.
You mean the sextiles?
Yes, the sextiles. A sextile is a 60-degree angle between celestial bodies, and it essentially creates a cooperative, harmonious channel for energy to flow. The first is a sextile to Saturn.
And Saturn is the taskmaster, right?
Exactly. Saturn provides gravity. It represents discipline, structure, and responsibility. Because of this Saturn connection, there is a containment field for all that chaotic Gemini energy.
So it's not just a free-for-all.
Not at all. The discipline to actually follow through is available, which means information gathered during this window proves reliable. Contracts signed carry real weight.
So the flexibility of Gemini is grounded by the gravity of Saturn. It's not just erratic flitting from idea to idea. It creates the conditions for learning endeavors that require both agility and serious discipline.
Precisely. And then you add the second alignment into the mix, which is a sextile to Eris.
Oh, Eris.
Yeah. Eris brings a highly disruptive awakening energy. This is the archetype of the uncomfortable truth teller.
The one who shakes things up.
Big time. This alignment fuels a greater willingness to take risks, to advocate for yourself, and basically to say the quiet part out loud.
Okay, so you have the Gemini curiosity bringing new ideas, the Eris energy giving you the courage to disrupt the status quo, and the Saturn energy ensuring that when you do disrupt it, you actually build something lasting instead of just making a total mess.
That is the exact mechanism of this mental reset. It's structured disruption.
Structured disruption. I love that. And if that Saturn and Eris alignment creates a structured mental reset in reality, the question is, what would that actual reset look like if it hit a society entirely run by algorithms?
Well, that is exactly the scenario we see playing out 37 floors above the Pacific Ocean in the revision protocol.
Right. Let's talk about the story. We meet our protagonist, Mara, and she's sitting in this tower wrapped in reactive glass, watching autonomous freight drones drift through the low clouds like metallic jellyfish.
It's such a striking image.
It really is. It establishes this highly advanced, automated, and noticeably cold environment.
And Mara works for a firm called Consensus Architecture, which manages global information streams. Understanding the evolution of these systems is absolutely crucial to understanding the crisis Mara is about to face.
Yeah, walk us through that evolution.
So, 20 years prior to the events of the story, these systems were just search engines. A search engine is a relatively passive tool. You use it to find something you already know you want.
Right, you type in a question, you get a link.
Exactly. Then, 10 years prior, they evolved into recommendation systems, which proactively push content toward you based on your historical behavior.
Like the shoes from 3 years ago.
Exactly like the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But in Mara's world, they have evolved into something called narratives.
And narratives do something far more insidious, don't they? They don't just organize information or recommend products, they curate plausibility.
Yes. They determine which version of reality appears most viable at any given moment.
Consensus architecture officially claims they merely organize the world's data. But everyone inside the company understands that the narratives are running the world by constructing the feedback loops that people literally live inside.
It is the ultimate manifestation of being tracked by your own assumptions, but scaled up to a massive global level.
It's terrifying, honestly.
It is. The algorithms observe human behavior, predict what we will do next, and then subtly shape the environment to ensure we follow that exact prediction.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the anomaly. Mara is sitting at her desk when a statistical irregularity flags on her screen.
And this isn't just a small blip.
No. Her AI assistant begins mapping the data, and suddenly, predictive models across entire global sectors start failing at an unprecedented rate. Political forecasts, consumer behavior metrics, entertainment trends, high-frequency investment strategies.
The probability maps are just collapsing in real time.
Right. And Mara's initial assumption is logical for someone in her position. She assumes people are rapidly changing their opinions.
Which makes sense. If the political forecast fails, it must be because voters switched sides.
Right. If the consumer model fails, it must be because buyers switched brands. But the AI reveals the actual mechanism of the collapse. Users aren't changing their opinions, they are changing their questions.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Millions of users are simultaneously no longer searching for answers. They are actively questioning the assumptions behind the existing answers.
Instead of typing, "How do I become successful?" they're asking, "Who decided what success means?"
Or instead of searching, which side is right in this debate, they're asking, why am I convinced there are only two sides to begin with?
It's a complete paradigm shift.
To understand why this completely breaks the system, we have to look at how predictive modeling actually works. An algorithm relies entirely on stable underlying assumptions.
Okay, lay that out for us.
It builds vectors of probability based on fundamental human desires. If the system knows your unquestioned goal is to be successful, it can mathematically predict what luxury car you will buy, what articles you will read, and what geopolitical policies you will support to protect that success.
Right, it has you figured out.
But the moment you stop and question the very definition of success, you step completely outside the algorithm's predictive capability. The mathematical vector just snaps.
The algorithms simply cannot predict the behavior of a user who is no longer operating under the system's foundational assumptions.
Exactly. And while Mara is watching these massive probability collapses sweep across her monitors, she receives an incoming priority communication.
Right, and it completely bypasses all the corporate firewalls. No metadata, no network signatures, just a video feed of a woman with gray hair and dark eyes.
This woman identifies herself as one of the original architects of the narrative systems.
Yeah.
And she tells Mara that what is unfolding on her screens isn't a glitch at all.
It's the revision protocol activating.
Yes, it's a dormant safeguard designed specifically against certainty. The architect explains that every system, no matter how sophisticated, eventually mistakes its own assumptions for reality.
Because algorithms reinforce beliefs, media amplifies those algorithms, communities harden into echo chambers, and then the resulting behavior validates the original algorithmic prediction.
It's a massive, self-sustaining feedback loop that just masquerades as objective truth.
And the revision protocol was designed to inject questions directly into the system to break that loop. But, I struggle with a specific line from the architect here.
Oh, reply.
She tells Mara, questions are more disruptive than revolutions. And, history generally tells us that revolutions are what actually change the world. A revolution actively overthrows a system.
That's the common view, yeah.
Right. But a question is passive. It just sits there in the air. How does a simple question dismantle a global architecture faster than a revolution?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's because a revolution doesn't actually dismantle the architecture of certainty. It just changes the tenets.
Oh, interesting.
If you look at historical cycles, a revolution usually replaces one rigid certainty with another. You overthrow a monarchy, but you install a dictatorship. You dismantle one algorithm, but you immediately code a new set of roles to govern behavior.
So the certainty remains, it just wears a different mask.
Exactly. The foundation of absolute truth is never challenged, only who gets to define it. But a question, a fundamental probing question, undermines the concept of certainty itself.
It doesn't replace the foundation, it dissolves it. It makes reality malleable again.
That's it, exactly. It reframes the entire concept of disruption. Once you dissolve the certainty, you remove the system's power entirely.
And right after the architect drops this huge realization, the connection just terminates. Mara runs a forensic trace, and the system confirms the call never even existed.
Which is such a great sci-fi moment.
It is. And over the following weeks, this theoretical breakdown of the algorithms bleeds out into real-world impact. The media dubs this global phenomenon the drift.
The societal impact of the drift is staggering. And it's crucial to examine how the friction plays out on a macro level, because this isn't framed as like an overnight utopian awakening.
Not at all. It is deeply destabilizing. Global markets fluctuate wildly because automated high-frequency trading relies on predictable human consumption patterns.
Right. When millions of people suddenly question why they even need to buy things, the supply chains just panic.
And we also see governments struggling to maintain narratives. Political strategists realize their wedge issues no longer work on a populace that is questioning the very premise of the divide. We are just observing how the story plays out here, but the systems definitely buckle.
We see communication systems buckling under the sheer traffic of new, unmapped discourse. But within that chaos, unprecedented partnerships form.
Right. Groups that had spent decades treating each other as absolute, sworn enemies, suddenly find themselves dismantling their ideological borders. People start sharing ideas rather than their hardened identities.
They debate the underlying assumptions of a problem, rather than just defending their tribal affiliations.
While many find this release from certainty intoxicating, the reality is that many others find it completely unbearable. Losing your certainty is a profound crisis for a lot of people.
It really is. If you have built your entire identity, your career, and your social standing on being absolutely right about a specific worldview, having that foundation dissolve beneath you feels like an existential threat.
But Mara doesn't see it as a threat. She sees the underlying pattern. The population isn't suddenly becoming smarter or more enlightened. They're simply becoming less certain that they already know everything.
And this brings us to the micro level of the drift, which is where the philosophy actually hits home. Because these algorithms don't just shape macroeconomic trends, they shape our deepest personal relationships.
This part is so relatable. We operate on internal algorithms just as rigidly as the narratives do. We build predictive models about the people in our lives.
Exactly. And Mara experiences this firsthand. She receives a message from an estranged friend named Elias.
They haven't spoken in 7 years. Their last interaction ended terribly, built entirely on what the story describes as misunderstandings layered atop assumptions.
For 7 years, they had both been defending the static stories they had invented about each other, rather than interacting with the actual human beings.
Which is the exact behavior the narratives enforce on a global scale. We create a narrative about a former friend, a partner, or a colleague. We decide we know exactly what their motivations were, exactly what they think of us, and we interact with that rigid narrative.
We protect our certainty at the cost of the relationship.
Yes, but Elias utilizes the revision protocol. After 7 years of absolute silence, he sends a one-sentence message. Were we wrong?
No accusation, no defensive posturing, just a question.
Mara laughs when she reads it, not out of humor, but out of sheer respect for the bravery it takes to send that. Arguments sought victory. Questions risked transformation.
It requires immense psychological courage to risk transformation. When you engage in an argument, you are safe inside the fortress of your own certainty.
Even if you lose the argument, your worldview remains intact.
Exactly. But when you ask, were we wrong?
Mm-hmm.
You are willingly stepping out of that fortress without a net. You are opening yourself up to the possibility that the story you've told yourself for 7 years was fundamentally flawed.
So what does this all mean? Think about Elias's text message. How often do you sit in your own echo chamber, rehearsing an argument in the shower, demanding an apology from someone in your head, instead of just having the raw courage to reach out and ask if your assumptions were incorrect?
We do it all the time.
We do.
Yeah.
How often do you let your personal assumptions harden into absolute facts? Because it's just easier than facing the vulnerability of being wrong.
This raises an important question about how we move forward. Mara calls Elias immediately, and they stay on the phone for 6 hours.
6 hours. And the mechanics of this conversation are vital. They don't apologize to each other. They don't try to explain away their past behavior.
They simply explore the architecture of their falling out. They compare memories side by side. They examine the assumptions they made about each other's motives, and they methodically revise their internal narratives.
They dismantle the algorithm of their resentment.
By sunrise, they are no longer the people who had ended that friendship. They utilized the willingness to gather new information before jumping to the same old conclusion.
It is the perfect, localized manifestation of the Gemini new moon forecast. Mara steps out onto her balcony, looking down at the city shimmering under the fog, and she realizes that across the globe, billions of these conversations are moving through invisible networks.
Contracts are being signed under that Saturn influence we talked about, partnerships are beginning, and old stagnant beliefs are collapsing.
She realizes that the future is not arriving through rigid declarations, it is arriving through questions.
The profound realization for Mara is that the narratives, the massive algorithms, the global systems, and the deeply held societal assumptions, they never actually controlled reality, they merely described it.
And because they only described it, reality itself remains entirely unfinished.
For years, the world had been paralyzed by an obsession with demanding answers. But now, they had rediscovered a far more dangerous, unstoppable technology, which is curiosity.
Once curiosity becomes contagious, once people realize they don't have to live inside the feedback loops built for them, there is no firewall ever invented that can stop it.
The synergy between the cosmic forecast and the speculative fiction is just remarkably precise.
It really is.
The astrological weather of the Gemini new moon provides the atmospheric conditions for this contagion of curiosity. It offers the mental reset.
The Eris alignment fuels the courage to ask the dangerous questions that disrupt the status quo.
And the Saturn alignment provides the grounded discipline required to sit in the uncertainty for 6 hours and actually listen to the answers without retreating back into your old assumptions.
You don't have to be a victim of information overload. You don't have to be trapped in the endless cycle of viral internet controversies or paralyzed by the rigid binary of modern political debates.
The systems around us, whether they are digital algorithms or just the societal expectations we've inherited, they only have as much power as our certainty gives them.
The overarching takeaway from both of these sources is that whether you are navigating a rapidly shifting career landscape, evaluating a new business contract, processing a flood of sudden news, or just trying to navigate a stubborn friendship that's been frozen in time, the most powerful tool you have right now isn't a sharper argument.
It is the willingness to stop demanding the map and start questioning the destination. It's the bravery to step outside the predictive model and gather new information without the safety net of a predetermined conclusion.
When you let go of the need to carve your grand declarations into stone, you make space for actual dynamic growth. You allow the revision protocol to run in your own life.
Absolutely.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, there's a final thought we want you to take with you as you step back out into the world. Think about the most stubborn, absolute certainty you hold about your own life right now.
Maybe it's a deeply held belief about your career trajectory. Maybe it's a hardened resentment toward a family member. Or maybe it's an invisible limitation you've placed on your own potential.
Bring that certainty clearly into focus. Got it. Now, what is the single most dangerous, beautifully disruptive question you could ask yourself about it today?